Welcome to our evening meditation at the end of January. I'm continuing to think about Richard Rohr's theme for the year, the prophetic path. Over 30 years ago, he set up the Centre for Action and Contemplation, a school for prophets where the contemplative mind and action for justice are interwoven. And we looked the last couple of weeks through the week of prayer for Christian unity, very much at the idea of justice. So today we'll spend a bit of time around the contemplative mind. Rohr understands that Jesus is in a long line of prophets, of Jewish prophets, who were not afraid to reveal inconvenient truths to their people. Jesus exposes the shadow, confronts the ego, and calls the people to be transformed. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time just scratching the surface on those two psychological ideas of the ego and the shadow. And maybe this image reflects a little bit of that, the ego being above the waterline there, how we react to situations, and the shadow is that which is often hidden. You could think of that as being below the water level. We'll come on to that as we go through tonight's meditation. So I invite you to, as usual, begin with a deep cleansing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And while you do that, just adjust your position on your chair or your sofa to feel comfortable and connected, conscious of your feet on the ground, conscious of your bottom on the chair, hands in a relaxed position and either eyes closed or lowered, or maybe looking at the picture on the screen. And I love that idea, that image, that through the body we have the feet in contact with the ground and the top of the head in contact with the air, and we are the connection between. So take another deep breath in. And out through the mouth. Breathing in, filling the lungs, allowing the belly to rise. If you can, count to 4 on the in-breath, and hold for 2, and then 4 on the out-breath, just to deepen that breathing and to slow it down. Sensing maybe the movement of that breath. I'm getting a sense of the wind. The sound as we breathe in and out, maybe equating to the rustling of the leaves. And in this preparation, using some words from a shalom prayer, Maranatha, come Lord. And if you want to repeat these to yourself after I've said each line, I come as myself. Just as I am. This moment, my feelings, my fears, my joys, my sadnesses. You see me as I really am. You know me. Through and through. You see all. All that I am. Or ever have been. Fill me now with your stillness, with the reality of your living presence. Jesus exposes the shadow, confronts the ego, and calls the people to be transformed. We've probably heard these words, these phrases, these terms. The ego, the thing that protects us from feeling vulnerable. Or put it another way, it's that hidden persona that protects what we think is our self. The ego, defender of what it thinks is right and wrong and the truth. The ego wants to eliminate all humiliating or negative information in order to look good at all costs, and will go to great lengths to avoid pain or discomfort or disturbance of the status quo. Jesus calls this self, this ego, an actor, though usually translated as hypocrite. Because the ego wants to keep us tied to easy and acceptable levels of knowledge. It doesn't want us going down into the unconscious realm. Or in Jung's term, our shadow self. The Pharisees, of course, were often called hypocrites by Jesus. They assumed they were fighting for God and standing up for truth. But actually they were fighting, and their ego was protecting a self where adherence to the law was the measure of success. Their egos were reacting against what they perceived to be criticism or challenge. And don't we so often do the same? I know I find it all too easy to perceive comments as a personal attack or criticism, and almost automatically leap to some sort of self-defense or justification, which is the ego stepping in. Or it might be that any blame is directed elsewhere, scapegoating others. Whenever the other or the sinner is excluded, our collective ego is delighted and feels relieved and safe. And this can work, but only for a while, because it is merely an illusion. The ego, you see, demands successes to survive, whereas the deeper self or soul needs only meaning to thrive. And our hope is that through regular contemplation, we become less and less interested in protecting this self-created relative identity. When we don't feed it, when we're able not to jump with the ego, it calmly falls away and we experience a kind of natural humility. In meditation, we move from ego consciousness to soul awareness, from being fear-driven to being love-drawn. And if our prayer, our contemplation goes deep, invading our unconscious, our whole view of the world will change from fear to connection. Fill me now with your stillness, with the reality of your living presence. Stillness, inner stillness. Not just the absence of noise, the absence of something could be seen as negative. Instead, we can think of it as presence, which is positive. The presence of something. Fill me now with your stillness, with the reality of your living presence. In this stillness, sense that you are that presence. That presence which is beyond and deeper than the body, the mind, the sense perceptions, the emotions. You as a person. Be present to your presence. The essence of who you are. A little bit of music from Salt of the Sound. I thought I heard you, or was it just the wind? I thought I saw it, or was it all a dream? Breathe in, breathe out, release my insecurity.
Was it just the wind?
Breathe in, breathe out. Release my insecurity. Your ways are working deep within. I learnt to listen with every part of me. Moving through the broken pieces. Breathe in, breathe out. Your ways are working deep within. So that idea of presence that is deeper than our perceptions, our thoughts, our bodily sensations. And then we come to this idea of the shadow. That part of the self that we don't want to see, we don't want others to see, which we might be afraid or even ashamed. I wonder, like me, have you had violent thoughts or even small outbursts of anger and then thought, that's not me, I'd never do that or think that, but it's there, and I can think of times when I've been aware of those deeper, often darker thoughts. The shadow announcing itself, and the ego trying to protect you from identifying with those thoughts. It can be the dark part of us that actually makes us human. Our tendency is to try to hide it or deny it. Archaic religion and most of the history of religion has seen the shadow as the problem and tries to get rid of it. But we can't get rid of the shadow. It's part of our common human lot, a part of our fabric. What we can do is to recognize it and not let the ego jump in to deny it or suppress it. Jesus and the prophets deal with the cause, which is the ego. Our problem is not our shadow. We all have that. It's part of being human. The problem is the over-defensive ego, which always sees and hates its own faults in other people, projects those onto others, and so avoids its own conversion. The well-known passage in Matthew when Jesus says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Take the plank out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly enough." If we do not see our own plank, if we deny it, if we ignore it, it's inevitable that we will hate it elsewhere. The genius of Jesus, who preceded Jung by 2,000 years, he wastes no time repressing or denying the shadow. He asks us to see the plank, to pay attention to the plank or to the shadow. He's not interested in moral purity, because he knows that any preoccupation with trying to repress the shadow doesn't lead to transformation, empathy, compassion, but invariably into denial, repression, hypocrisy. So we develop our ability to see our own planks, not to repress, not to deny, but almost to bring the light to shine on them. And so we move to our longer period of silence. Maybe with those words from Maranatha prayer, fill me now with your stillness, with the reality of your living presence. Or use the breathing. Breathe in, breathe out with salt of the sand. Be still so I can hear again. Or just step back from yourself and notice your thoughts on the surface of the water, or notice any planks that you're aware of, and just be compassionate to yourself. You move to take me deeper still. Breathe in, breathe out, be still so I can hear again.
so I can hear again. You move to take me beyond here, where you call me to go.
Breathe in, breathe out. Be still so I can hear again. You move to take me beyond here, where you call me to go. So as we come back to where we're sitting, reconnecting, closing words from Mechthild of Magdeburg. To you we come, O wisdom without end. In you we rest, O mercy without limit. Only in you are we fully alive. Only in your light can we truly see. Only in your strength are we safe to pursue our way. Amen.